when did our public schools, any schools, become what are essentially grooming centers for gender identity radicals?
That is the latest GOP talking point. Republicans are now claiming that education, or even just conversations around gender identity and sexual orientation in schools or television programming, is a form of grooming children to become LGBTQ+.
There's never a time when a teacher needs to sit down with kids and tell them that, hey, you know, you're a boy, but you might actually be a girl.
This argument has surfaced in discussions of a recently passed Florida bill that, in part, prohibits classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity in certain grade levels or in a specified manner. Critics are calling it the Don't Say Gay bill. Proponents are calling it the anti-grooming bill.
If you really want to talk to a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old about their sexuality and gender, that's on you. You're a pervert. You're a weirdo. I don't give a damn if you're a teacher.
Like, maybe teach the kids to read before you tell them to go trans. You shouldn't be talking to kindergartners about gender identity, especially if you're not their parents. That's creepy. You should be arrested for that.
Look, there's a reason why the Democrats are treating this bill like it's the apocalypse. All we're telling them is you can't groom young children, and to them it's Armageddon, and that's because they know they have to indoctrinate the kids into this madness very, very young.
The supposed indoctrination of the nation's children isn't just in schools, according to conservatives. It's also in media.
Now it's all about pushing a sexual agenda on little children across their entertainment platforms.
You don't have to be afraid to, like, let's have these two characters kiss, let's in the background this, like, I was just wherever I could just basically adding queerness.
They've been really open to exploring queer stories.
Disney wants to completely take your children and they want to indoctrinate them into sexual immoral filth.
The fact that we are trying to accelerate our kids in this direction is incredibly concerning for me as a parent.
The fact that they want to sexualize our children and our children's childhoods for their own political agenda is incredibly disturbing. Instead of making films that kids want to watch, they're actually making films that will indoctrinate them.
Their main, quote, goal as a company is now to teach kindergartens in Florida that they can, in fact, change their gender just by wishing it so. It makes you wonder if kids in Florida can consent to chemical castration with no parental involvement.
This isn't programming, this is propaganda for grooming.
According to the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, or RAINN, grooming is defined as manipulative behaviors that the abuser uses to gain access to a potential victim, coerce them to agree to the abuse, and reduce the risk of being caught. So, not what Republicans are talking about. I spoke to Sarah Kate Ellis, president and CEO of GLAAD, to understand a bit more about Republicans' misuse of the word grooming.
What are conservatives really saying here?
To put this in context, politicians who are anti-LGBTQ have been using this false narrative and stereotype for decades now. LGBTQ people have been falsely accused of crimes and have not been hired as teachers all the way back to Harvey Milk and Anita Bryant days.
Well, it sounds like the behavior of a sex offender. I mean, normal people don't sexualize underage children, period.
We are letting them control the narrative here because these bills actually aren't even about that. These bills are about censorship. Mommy, Mama, and Me, which was one of my kids' favorite books, is not allowed in that classroom anymore. So my kids can read about a mom and a dad and a child, but not two moms and a child. And therefore, the message that they are being sent is that they don't matter, that their family is less than. And that is the danger in all of this. Because if we look at what's going on with our LGBTQ families and our LGBTQ youth, they are under siege right now. In 2021, 1 out of every 4 LGBTQ teen attempted suicide. Sit with that for a minute. And now this year, we've seen over 200 anti-LGBTQ bills that have been put forth, and half of those are anti-trans, and most of them are against our trans youth. What I'd love to see these politicians do is lift these kids up, is to help these kids and these families instead of pushing them down. There's an Equality Act that has been stalled in the Senate that would actually give us protections. There are a number of things that as an LGBTQ community, we're not safeguarded against. We can still be fired in some states for jobs. We could still be denied public housing. Them choosing to instead come after the community instead of help the community is a horrible, horrible thing. There's always time to redeem yourself. It's never over. And I think that, you know, I'd love to see some of them come to terms with this, because I guarantee there isn't a family in America that does not have an LGBTQ person in it. And that includes their families.